Aloha and welcome to Ehana Kako. We're here every week on the ThinkTech Hawaii Broadcast Network. I'm Keli'i Akina, president of the Grassroots Institute. One of the most tragic things to see in paradise is homelessness, poverty, as well as just the running down of beautiful places. And we see so much of that here today. It not only affects our tourist industry, it just affects those of us who live here and those who have to live at the lowest economic levels in our society. That's why today I am so thrilled to be with a couple who is doing something about Hawaii in terms of reaching out to people who are truly in need. And they're not just talk by any means at all. They have started something that is dynamic, that is transforming a part of our island and is being taken across the world as a model. My guests today are Tom and Cindy Bauer. Tom is the president and founder of Surfing the Nations, along with his wife, Cindy, who is the executive director. I'm not going to say anything more right now, except to tell you that as you listen today and as you watch Tom and Cindy, you're going to be amazed at what can be done without taxpayer dollars, without forcing people into any mold, but by breaking molds indeed. And that's enough said. With that, I'll only add that Tom and Cindy are dear friends, and I want to welcome them to the program. Tom, aloha to
Blessings.
you.
Yeah, it's good to be here.
So
Thank
good
you.
to see you. And
Thank
Cindy, you know, we knew each other when we were all very, very young. I won't say how many decades ago that was.
Great.
And we've always been involved in trying to help people who weren't well off to be better off and see lives and places transformed.
That's right.
Great to see both of you today.
Thank you.
Tom, Surfing the Nations. I mean, at first glance, the name Surfing the Nations sounds like it's a bunch of surfers who just want to travel around the world surfing, which is exactly what you were at one time.
Yeah, well, that's what it does, is actually we just see that surfers have a responsibility to give back, and we just see that surfers are an untapped resource to give back locally and international, and that's what Surfing the Nations is doing. So it's just not all about surfers, it's about non-surfers who love the beach and the whole ambience and the subculture of surfing. So
That's
it's
right.
amazing.
So now the development work that you are doing in the town of Wahiawa and the leadership development as well that's taking place there really began decades ago as a couple of surfers got together. And were you a surfer too, Cindy?
Never surfed.
You didn't?
No.
What drew you to Tom and what he does?
Oh, I guess his good looks. No, and so we always joke, if I'm kind of more the administrator, he dreams and I make it happen. So
Well, how about that?
it keeps us going.
So at one point or another, in addition to your vision of reaching out to surfers to help them deal with their lives and get off of drugs and alcohol and so forth and become productive, something happened along the way that got you into community development. Tell me the story.
Well, it kind of started, I was surfing in Europe and Africa. I ended up, going to South Africa, Mozambique and stuff. And while I was in Europe, I would collect all kinds of stuff. And then when I got to Africa, primarily Angola, I noticed that I would start giving this stuff out. And it made such an impact on me that there was such a need in the world. And so what I did is basically I was a taker and I learned to be a giver. And so then now what we're trying to do is we're trying to mobilize young people to not be takers, but to give givers. And we're finding that there's thousands of them that want to help to get involved to bring transformation not only to our communities, but the communities of the world.
Right now you're working with over 100 volunteers in the lower Wahiawa area, isn't that right?
Correct.
And they have done something phenomenal in terms of transforming Wahiawa. In fact, we've got some photos over here to throw up onto the screen behind me in a moment or so, showing what Wahiawa was to most people. In fact, if you're watching the show and you're from the islands, you'll realize that Wahiawa town at the front entrance for many decades became very, very much run down. And in fact, how would you describe Wahiawa as it had been for many, many years?
Oh, I can only just say from my own personal experience. I was coming back from the North Shore one time, and what I did is I remember just going, now that we occupy, a large part of half of a block there, I just remember I just kind of got goosebumps going, oh my gosh, I hope I don't get stopped.
In fact, we're looking, Cindy, if you take a look at the monitor here, we're looking at a typical front street at the very entrance of Wahiawa as it was, not very long ago.
Yeah, that's our 4 buildings, and that's even looks better than they did when we first took them over. So it is now a whole process of change that has taken place, and it wasn't really something that we anticipated. We just got it when we landed there. after fundraising for 12 years to be able to purchase a property, we ended up purchasing what was an old bar.
An old bar?
And then next door to that, we found out was the second largest porn shop, Divine Pleasure.
A porn shop, all
and
right.
then right next to that was a liquor store that sold everything from as simply illegal as cigarettes all the way up, as well as porn and porn toys.
Abuse store.
Yes, and then next to that was a strip bar that had
Oh my
sex
goodness, what a
trafficking and
neighbor-
prostitution.
Yeah.
What a neighborhood to move into.
Yeah, and then right behind that was an 8-bedroom brothel that we're now in the process of turning into the Community Outreach and Training Center.
My
So all of
goodness.
those have been transformed, and it's been exciting to watch. And we have neighbors come and thank us, people just driving down the street that stop and say that this is just refreshing now.
Well, let me pause here now so that we can give our viewers a real good understanding of what it is that's happening. You moved into the Wahiawa neighborhood with your organization, Surfing the Nations, with a vision. And that was not only to transform lives, as you had been doing with young surfers, but to transform an entire neighborhood. And so you began to acquire property. Tell me a little bit more, Cindy.
Well, we didn't realize what we were getting into when we got there. We actually just moved there with our same vision, and then it got expanded as we got exposed to the neighborhood. For example, we'd always been working with high school students, and so we thought, oh, we'd be able to go right in and work with high school students. But it was too tough. Ojai Street is known
Ojai
for
Street, that's right.
sex, drugs, violence, gangs, everything, and we landed right there. That's our back of our property is Ojai Street, and we saw that we had to work with the young children to really touch their lives and bring about change. And so we began to see how change had to happen where we were. We couldn't bring ourselves in the way we had been before.
Now let me see if I understand something. It doesn't sound as though you were doing a community or neighborhood development organization and then targeted Wahiawa, planned it out, went there and began seeing change. It sounds as though you all moved there just to continue your work with these young surfers, probably because it was a cheap area, is that right? You didn't have to pay that much in rent. And you found yourselves living as real authentic neighbors in a community that had been run down, that had great need. And that seems somehow to have changed the focus of your organization. Tell me a bit about that.
Yeah, so we just saw the need in the neighborhood, and then we just started meeting the need, and then it just kept growing and growing and growing, and before you know it, we were able to purchase all those buildings, all the storefronts. We have 23 units in the back and 2 houses, so all our volunteers live there. So we're able to really meet a real need, and of course, Ojai Street, for anybody who's listening that really knows Wahiawa, they go, "You live on Ojai Street?" And I even dogged the man, said, "No, we're going to the most notorious street in all of Hawaii, Ojai Street." So we've been able to see transformation come, and now people, they want to come there. But there's a lot of stories, like a guy that lives in the Heights. We got some air conditioning in our coffee shop that we have, and he said, "I don't even want to park my car back there because when I finish the job, I'll have no wheels or some of my parts on my car." And it's just amazing to see how the transformation is so noticeable and so documentable that people are getting excited and they're coming to Wahiawa
That's right.
and seeing what we're doing. Just to can't believe it.
We have some photos of present-day Wahiawa Ojai Street, and here's a picture of some of the buildings you've taken over. You obviously enjoy fluorescent. Is this current, by the way?
That's what it was.
That's
isn't
what it
current.
was. That's not current.
This is not current.
That's not
okay.
current, yeah.
This is
No.
some of the older structure,
Yeah.
and in a few moments we'll see some current ones. But give me a rundown, if you will.
There's the new one.
There we go. Boy, that's so different now, clean and
And,
bright.
and it's really exciting. Chaminade University, their design school came on and wanted to work out just designing and color and creating an amazing project. So they were real instrumental in the foundation of the physical change that would take place.
Well, this is so incredible because I recall not long ago, driving into this main street in Wahiawa, it was dark, it was dingy, there were all kinds of things and people strewn about, sadly, that spoke to depression. And now it looks like it's almost like an elementary school with brightness and color. What a change. Tell me more about the actual property you have. You've got the front of the street where you've acquired these buildings that were used for other purposes, and now you're using them for what purposes?
Well, one of the most exciting things is the yellow building is actually, it used to be a bar, and now it's like a coffee shop. And we have all the surf memorabilia.
That's right.
Yeah, and
is
it's
this a surfer's coffee bar here?
Yeah, and
you've given me one of these logos.
It's basically like
here.
a mini surf museum where people can just come in. It's air conditioned and it's nice, and so it's created a whole new vibe in Wahiawa.
I'll let you hold this up
Okay.
there, so people can see that logo.
All right, there
we
you
go.
go. Yeah,
How
so
about
it's exciting. So it's just another way of bringing the community together through a cup of coffee. And kind of our motto is that it's more than a cup of coffee. And so it's not just the coffee, but it's really the relationships that we build.
Well, how about that? You also have a boutique. You want to tell us a little bit about that? Called the Vintage Hawaii. Here, I'll let you hold that.
Okay. Well, what happened when we closed the strip bar in May of 2012, we removed the sex industry for the first time in decades. I haven't met anybody that is alive that can tell me that they can't remember it not being there. So that was kind of a tough sentence, but it was always had been known for the sex industry there. So when we closed it in 2012, it was hard to get people to walk on the street, because that had just been a place that was absolutely taboo. You didn't go over there, you didn't hang out there, you didn't even look that way. So it's been real fun. The coffee bar was our first thing that we did, and then we opened up the antique shop, which is 90% run on donations of people that just find out what we're doing and get excited about doing it. I remember one family came in, they had these amazing things that were the great-grandmas, and they were asking us if we'd buy them, and we said, no, you can donate them, and they virtually brought them all down. So,
well, this is just incredible, you know, and I congratulate you on what you're doing. We've talked a little bit about the buildings and taken a look a little bit at some of the sites and the scenery. When we come back from a short break, I wonder if you can tell us a little bit about lives that have been changed in the neighborhood. You talk about sex workers, for example, and I understand that many of them are actually now involved in some of your projects, and that's very exciting to hear. I'm Keli'i Akina, talking with Tom and Cindy Bauer about a tremendous transformation in Lower Wahiawa through a program called Surfing the Nations. When we come back, we're going to ask them to tell us a bit more about how it's structured, how it's funded, and about how the neighborhood and lives are being transformed. Don't go away. We'll be right back after this short message.
Here's the deal. I'm Jay Fidel. I'm the host of Hawaii, the State of Clean Energy, which is the Energy Policy Forum's program on Wednesday. That's how we call Wednesday Energy Wednesday. We call it Energy Wednesday every Wednesday. Are you surprised? Okay, and we try to get guys like Jim Alberts here from Hawaiian Electric who can tell us what's really going on in energy. We want to be informed. It's so important. It's the most important initiative in our state. Clean energy is major, okay? And that's why we cover it on this show. That's the deal. What do you think, Sharon?
I think that's great. That's why we're here every Wednesday from 4 to 5, and we hope you all join us so we can hear people like Jim coming on our show and co-host Ray Starley from Hawaii Energy.
Okay, Jim, you've been here today. You've seen this. You heard what she said. What do you think?
I think it's a tremendous opportunity for people to come together and talk about the issues. Oftentimes there isn't a good forum to bring these key issues out into the public, and this is a tremendous way to go about it. And the activity of this show is essential to keep talking about energy, because as you said, it's such an essential part of our lives that we need to pay attention to it, and we need to think about the future.
Okay, Ray, your turn.
Well, this is a special time in the history of Hawaii where we're making some pretty radical changes in the way we use energy and generate energy. And this show is the one place you can count on coming to every Wednesday and hearing something about the latest issues that are on the table, being discussed, that will affect us all going forward. So come join us, and if you have some ideas you want to share with us about energy, give us a call and let us know. We'll put you up here and let you talk for an hour. So come see us.
Thanks, Ray. Thanks, Sharon. Thanks, Jim. It's great to be, from ThinkTech's point of view, it's great to have this show. We love the show. It's our most important show. So come around and listen to us 4 to 5 on Wednesday. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Aloha.
Aloha.
Welcome back to Ehana Kako. We're here every week on the ThinkTech Hawaii Broadcast Network. I'm Keli'i Akina, president of the Grassroot Institute. At the Grassroot Institute, we've taken a venerable old Hawaiian saying that everybody knows, a pule kako, which means let's pray together. And we've broadened that to a hana kako as our model. Let's work together. Can you imagine how bad things would be if we don't work together? So at the Grassroot Institute, we're bringing people to work together to build a better economy, government, and society in Hawaii. And that's why from time to time I like to showcase projects that are actually doing that. And we talk a great deal about the problems that we have with our current government, the cost of actually running programs, welfare programs, which make up the majority of spending by our government. We talk about the burden on taxpayers. But there are people out there in the private sector who are leading initiatives that don't cost the taxpayer anything. And that's exactly what Surfing the Nations does. So we should all rally around them, I think, and support them because they're good for Hawaii. Is that right, Tom? You guys are good for Hawaii.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's amazing, to give all these young people an opportunity to serve. And there's just thousands of them that want to come and serve in a community to put on their resume.
Well, that's something you've said, that there are young people who are engaged in this. And so what I think you're telling me is that your workforce, your labor force is not a paid labor force. It's not a unionized labor force.
That's right.
It's not a professional labor force. It's people who come and work for you.
Yeah.
How are they supported?
Well, they just raise their own support. The major thing is that they just want to serve. And so there's this resource of people who will actually pay to work for you if it's going to better the community and bring transformation.
This is an incredible volunteer mobilization and training program, in other words. And young people actually go out and scrimp and save and sacrifice and beg their parents for a certain amount of money to support themselves. How long do they work with you as volunteers?
Well, it can be a minimum of a month to years. And actually, we have a waiting list of people who want to come and serve.
And do you provide residency for them?
Yeah, that's what we do. We provide, housing for them.
What kind of housing do you have?
Real nice housing. No, it's kind of, we provide, it's a dorm, it's actually an apartment.
An apartment?
So,
Two apartment buildings,
yeah,
how
four
many
houses.
people are you able to house?
Oh, we have like 23 units and a couple houses, and I don't know, Cindy, how many do you think?
Oh, I don't know. It just depends on the family situation. We had one couple that came from Sweden with their 2 children, and so they're volunteering
How about
with
that?
it.
This sounds almost like a Peace Corps type of program.
Some people
Actually,
compare it to that.
it's like what they say, but the thing is that people live in the community and then they come to Surfing Nations. We have a girl right now, she's actually from Denmark, living in Waikiki, taking the bus, and she's like a super PR person that's
How
just
about
donating
that?
her time.
And when they come as volunteers, and you have over 100 of them, you train them, you give them an experience of personal growth and development. But what is it that they actually do for Surfing the Nations? What do they do for the community?
A lot of people come very skilled and talented. The majority, I would say better than half of our young people are college graduates. But they have decided that their idea in life is to make life better, not to just try to get things that are better. And so they come with a whole different idea where they want to give back, and they see a quality of life that is much greater than trying to obtain. So with these, right now, for example, the young man that is in charge of building our Community Outreach and Training Center, he is an architect engineer that gave up a fine paying job in Charleston, North Carolina. And you don't want to get the Carolinas
That's
mixed
right.
up because we have
Then it's fighting.
one,
It's fighting words.
yeah. And he's now running the whole job for us as one of our volunteers. So some of them, they're training us or helping us with
That's
what we
incredible.
need to get done.
So you could have a professional who wants to take a season in his or her life
Correct.
to come and actually serve. It's almost the way we conceive of a third world outreach. It's not uncommon to talk about going to Africa or going somewhere where the need is great, like India and so forth. Do you think that really is the case also in Lower Wahiawa and parts of our island, that
Definitely.
we're really in an almost third world need situation? And by the way, my apologies to the Chamber of Commerce. I'm not talking about Wahiawa altogether. But in terms of real human need,
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think what it is that they see that what we're doing in Wahiawa, and people are coming from all over the world to see our model, because what they're doing is that they're taking it back so it's transferable. And so we're seeing that other communities are being transformed by what they're seeing in Wahiawa. And when they see what's transpired, then they get all excited and go, hey, if they can do it, then we can do it.
now you've got some significant projects taking place. It's not just bringing people together, training them. You have a community outreach center, and this must cost money. So what is the funding source of Serving the Nations for the whole project?
Well, this is probably one of the most amazing stories. It started out at a $1.5 million project. We had torn down an old 8-bedroom brothel that was literally being held together by cockroaches holding hands. And now we're in the process of building this amazing building that will house a food pantry. It'll house an art room for the kids. It'll hold a dance room and a classroom and a music room.
And what is this called?
The Community Outreach and Training Center.
Community Outreach and Training Center.
Right. So when we embarked on this, we thought, wow, how is this ever going to happen? And the state gave us $150,000, which was kind of the foundation thing to get it going. And then the city and county have come in, First Hawaiian Bank, Walmart. Many people have come on board, different companies have seen what's going on and they just want to get involved. And one of the exciting things is people that have been working on it, our contractor, for example, he doesn't want to make any profit on it. So that's
great.
We've literally, with just the donations of people that are working on it, have brought it down to just $1 million project versus a 1.5 million. So
that's incredible.
It is just incredible. I still have to pinch myself.
And when you talk about the state and county being involved, this is not really as if the state and county are funding Surfing the Nations. It's one of your projects that they've
Right.
given a one-time boost to
Correct.
because of how worthy it is. In fact, your project is actually going to do for the state and the county
Exactly.
what they would be doing anyway, but at a much more efficient cost to them.
Exactly.
Well, that's incredible.
In fact, the county's money is mainly focused on our feeding program.
Sure.
We feed over 3,000 people a week.
3,000 a week.
A week, from Keli'i to Wahiawa, sometimes in Waikiki, west side.
Now that's pretty broad. So it's not just Wahiawa centric.
No.
You're dealing with the south part of the island, really, all the way out to Waikiki.
We go down to Waikiki regularly.
So it's an outreach feeding program as well.
Correct,
You
correct.
take food in vans and vehicles.
No,
Yeah,
it
but
actually it gets delivered to us. We're able to give it out. When we go to Waikiki, we take it in vans. Then we actually feed out of our own back garage too, the people right there in Wahiawa.
Sure. Now I understand that you've got a way of actually recycling, and maybe that's not the best word, recycling, but actually using food that may not be of the standard that can be sold in a restaurant or store, but isn't bad, that it isn't, so it's not
Exactly.
wasted.
Exactly. And Aloha Harvest, Hawaii Food Bank, and Whole Foods are our three main contributors. Without them, we wouldn't be able to feed the people that we feed. And so you figure we're feeding that many people on food that is able to be given away. And so
This is something. And you know, some of the leaders in the restaurant industry had shared with me at one point that it was actually very hard to deal with wasted food because of the regulatory issues involved in that. And so to have an organization that can take it and deal with it makes all the difference in the world, because we have people in the community, restaurant owners, businesses and others, that really would like not to see that wasted.
Exactly.
Well, where we're a little different is that we have this huge volunteer force. So when we give the food out, it's not just about giving the food out. It's building a relationship with the people. So we're able to spend a lot of good quality time. So these people have become like part of our family. And they're basically the working poor. They have enough money to pay the rent, but they don't have enough money for food. And so we're building a relationship. It's not about just blessing, it's about building.
Well, that working poor, the pool that you described, who have enough money to pay the rent but not the food, that's growing.
It's
Growing.
Tremendously here in the state.
Yeah.
And we need solutions like this to make a difference. Now, you have obviously transformed your initial mission or goal. You know, I used to think, Tom, back in the days when we were a lot younger, that you just used your surfboard as an excuse to go around the world.
Yeah.
But what is the mission now of Surfing the Nations?
Well, the whole thing is, our subtitle is Surfers Giving Back. I always
Surfers
just
Giving
say
Back.
giving back because I'm not a surfer. So, and it's raising up young people with a purpose beyond themselves, and it literally changes lives. And we kind of got put in this position where we were, in just doing the next thing, able to see transformation come to a community that was overpowering and amazing in just how it would happen. It just began to snowball, and we were able to see this change come about that had not even been what we'd anticipated. We had mainly focused on wanting to work with the young people and try to bring change to their life, but sometimes changing the environment brings about a big change for people's lives as well. So with everything that we're doing, the kids will tell you they weren't even allowed to walk down the front side of the street. Now they can walk and go anywhere on the street and not have a fear of what they're going to see or run into.
That's incredible.
In front of what used to be the strip bar, there used to be anywhere from 1 to 15 prostitutes out on a regular day. So it's changed the whole atmosphere. You know how hotels pay millions of dollars to have the right ambiance? It literally changed the whole ambiance of the street with what we're involved in, which has been a very huge part of changing lives. And so they kind of meshed together all of a sudden, when we had been more concentrating on just lives, but how the environment, where we were living and what we were doing changed lives.
How has the community received you, Tom? I can imagine that as with any project in Hawaii, there's at the least diversity in the way things are received, but nobody can deny that you've increased the property values, and you may not want to say that, but
Right.
but I can imagine, you've turned an area where people wouldn't want to live into one where they might like to live.
Yeah, we kind of say, if you don't care who gets the credit, then the whole equation changes. And so it's all about just us reaching the community. But every single week, somebody comes in and says thank you. And obviously, we have to be very humble. But everybody, it's like everybody is helping, from all the community or painting, and from McDonald's to Walgreens going in to Wendy's across the street being rebuilt. And so the whole community is just like involved in the best way I can put it is that I believe that every city is like a person. So if you can look at Wahiawa as a woman who's been maybe kind of abused and taken advantage of, and then all of a sudden they get an extreme makeover, and then all of a sudden go, wow, I didn't know she was so beautiful. So Wahiawa has personality and character, and people are saying like, man, Wahiawa is an exciting place to live and to go see. And so it's all, on the way to the North Shore, it's the gateway to the North Shore. And so people are now taking pride in what we're doing is that we're remarketing Wahiawa. Where, I don't know if you can see this,
Sure.
but I remember I did this. It says, I love Wahiawa, and I remember
You
somebody...
can turn it toward me here. Yes,
Oh, okay.
There we go.
So somebody came, and I showed this, and they go, I've never seen anything like that. And so, people are taking pride in...
That's right.
In Wahiawa, and now
In fact,
it's becoming beautiful.
I love this one. You
Oh,
showed
yeah,
me
okay.
A little bit earlier.
Yeah, this is
All
one of
the-
my favorite ones. It's,
luxury places
media
to live.
is amazing, So here we see, instead of like London, Tokyo, and Paris, we got,
You want to hold it up a little higher?
Hawaii,
There you
Kai,
go.
Kahala, Diamond Head, and Wahiawa. And
That's
so
right.
It's just kind of a fun way to say, oh yeah, okay, there we are.
There we go.
Okay.
Well, that's wonderful. We're talking with Tom and Cindy Bauer, the president and executive director of Surfing the Nations. They've been involved in a tremendous community transformation in Lower Wahiawa, but also in raising up young men and women who learn how to surf through the process of transforming the neighborhood. One of the things that is most interesting is that cities get rated, and Wahiawa at one time had been rated on a national standing as having a rank of 3. But before we go to a break, Tom, since you've been there, what has the rating gone up to?
Well, the scale is 1 to 100, so that's important. And then
Okay.
Wahiawa was only rated a 3, and that's Lower Wahiawa. And I had checked, maybe this a couple of years ago, I think it went up to an 8. I don't know where it is now, but it's just exciting to know that it's going up.
Well, the metrics are there, folks. Don't go away, because we'll be back for our final segment with Tom and Cindy. And I have to apologize to all of you. I had wanted in this segment to dive into some of the stories of lives transformed. We just got so absorbed in the place being transformed. We'll start right off in the final segment looking at some of those lives that have been changed by Surfing the Nations. We'll be right back after this short message.
Aloha, my name is Jim Sean, and I'm host of a show called Education Movers, Shakers, and Reformers. Each week, live streaming at noon on ThinkTech Hawaii, we interview people who have special insights into education, from early education through K-12, all the way through higher education and beyond. Both public and private are areas we're interested in. We dig deeper. We try to find out what it's really like to be involved in making change, advocating for it, how you reform, what people's philosophies are in reforming it. As I said, we're live streaming every Wednesday at noon on ThinkTech Hawaii. And later on, you can find these interviews on YouTube and on the Hawaii Educational Policy Center website. We hope you join us as many times as possible.
No problem.
Welcome back to Ehana Kako. Today has been a fascinating program talking to Tom and Cindy Bauer, founders of Surfing the Nations, because they show us that the private sector has solutions available, solutions which tap into the goodwill of people, and when we put them to work in an intelligent way, we can see our towns and cities transformed. That's so important, and it's such an encouraging story. I encourage you to drive through Wahiawa now, especially if you've not done it for a decade or two. I run into people who tell me the last time they were in Wahiawa was like 40 years ago, and so forth.
Come back.
There are even ways, if you're going to the North Shore, to bypass Wahiawa, but now there's every excuse to go there. Before we move into the final segment, I do want to say thanks a lot to Jay Fidel and all of the tremendous staff and volunteers at ThinkTech Hawaii that put this program on a regular basis. You produce about 30 hours of original content from Honolulu, and that's live streamed as well as available online at thinktechhawaii.com. And don't forget to take a look at all of the episodes of Ehana Kako at grassrootinstitute.org. That's grassrootinstitute.org. Now back to our conclusion. Tom, Cindy, our time is running fast, but tell us a little bit about some of the people who've been transformed. You said that part of your establishment, not your establishment, but part of the buildings were used for the sex trade. Everything from the sale of products to the sale of people. And that came to an end when you acquired that property. What about the people involved? Have you seen any of them around, and are they engaged in your programs?
I think probably one of the most exciting stories, because our hope was always that they would discontinue, not that they would just move to someplace else. And there had been two sisters that had owned the strip bar, and it was very difficult for them to see it close. They'd offered us quite large amounts of money to leave it open, and we just finally said, no, it's got to close. Could we use the money? Yes, but it was more important to close it. And so I remember being in there cleaning up the place, and let me tell you, you wouldn't have wanted to have been there. And she was in there too, the one sister. And she came up to me, and she, with mixed emotions to start with, and then all of a sudden she just started to weep and flung her arms around me, and she said, this used to be death, and now it's life. As she saw the young people in there excitedly cleaning up what had been just a den of iniquity. And so just to see that one small transformation was huge for us, just to kick off the change that would take place from there.
Well, that's incredible. I know there are many children in the Wahiawa area who've benefited from your being there. You have outreaches. In fact, I think we have a photo up right now of some of the programming that you do for children. Let us know about that.
As Friends of Hawaii Charities, they've been a big support and practically the foundation support for our work with children. So we're very grateful to them. And one year they purchased 20 ukuleles, and that's all the kids in a ukulele lesson. And so that's why we're really excited about having our music room. And we've gotten very involved with these kids. In fact, one of these
Yes, one of these young people.
one of these young people is now our grandson.
Oh.
And you know, when he came to us, his
You should
head
you should
was
tell the story.
filled with lice, his teeth were rotten, his stomach was distended and malnutrition. He had been taken care of by his 10-year-old sister since he was birth. His mother had been a drug mom, and she had often just locked him in the house and disappeared for hours. And neighbors told us that they used to hear him calling from the bedroom. And when my daughter first started helping out the family, it was to try to get the 12-year-old who had been watching him for 2 years back into school. And so to get her back into school meant she'd have to take care of this little boy. And the father had called CPS because he couldn't handle it anymore. And so all of a sudden we were told by a social worker that had connection that we had 48 hours to decide what would happen with this family because they were being ready to be taken into CPS. And so this little boy is the same age as my daughter and son-in-law are married. And so it was quite a decision. They ended up taking the little boy and then finding beautiful homes. So this little boy is now with Surfing the Nations in Sweden, speaks Swedish fluently, and where everything was written hopeless across him, now it's full of hope and excitement, and he can hardly wait until he gets to do something radical and crazy like his Tutu and Puppy and his parents are doing. So it was to just see the transformation, and then the door that opened in the community with the parents trusting us with their kids. And often we walk the kids to school, we sign them in for school, we'll be the only ones there for their graduation. So we work very tightly with the elementary school there, Ka'ala, and they mentioned to us the change that they've seen in the children in this neighborhood and how it used to be that you really didn't want those kids, but now they want them.
Tremendous.
So it's been just exciting to see them come alongside us and us to come alongside them to really partner and see these kids' lives changed with a purpose and a desire to do well. Because most of the kids in that neighborhood have dropped out of school. If they make it even the first year in high school, that's amazing. So our goal is to try to keep them going. It gets tougher as they get older, but we're hoping we've planted good essence of character at the beginning to really see them pull through.
Well, thank you for sharing that, especially about your grandson.
Yes.
And
Yeah,
congratulations.
the adoption.
I'm going to turn to Tom and try to make him cry too. But Tom, you
Well,
know,
I have a fresh story. Just yesterday, I was just at the swap meet, the Aloha Stadium, and a guy came up. I see him all the time, and he just said, "Tom, I just want to thank you and Surfing the Nations." He said, "I was homeless down in Waikiki, and my life has been radically changed." And he just kept talking about how grateful he is for what the organization did to him, and that was just yesterday.
Well, that's
so we get
something.
these stories every single week of
That must be very,
all the
very
different lives that are being
gratifying.
changed.
And when you talk about lives changing, it speaks to what you and Cindy have invested yourselves in. What is the values basis for what you stand for up at Serving the Nations? Do people have to be of one ideology or one religion, or what really is the underlying factor that makes this more than simply renovating buildings?
Caring about others.
Yeah. Just about the love. I mean, obviously it's a humanitarian organization and it's primarily run by Christians, but we have so many people from all different walks of life and different beliefs that really just want to give back and serve people. And so unity is really not based on agreeing. Unity is based on not agreeing, but working together for a common cause. And when we see everybody working together and pulling together the resources, it's just amazing what we can do here in Hawaii when we all work together, to bring change, whether it's to the homeless community or whatever the needs are in our community. And this is what we're modeling, and people can actually see this working. It's not something that's just a good idea, but they can actually come to Wahiawa and see the change. And the thing is that's so exciting about it is that they don't even have to talk to us. They can just talk to people in the community and ask them what have they seen and what they've experienced from the transformation.
The picture you're seeing right now is what was the old brothel, and that's a bunch of our volunteers out there. We wanted to get one picture before we would tear it down. It took just one tug of a rope, and it all went whoosh as it fell down. But there's a picture. You see literally kids from around the world, from South Africa to Europe to Bangladesh that have all come to be involved in what we're doing, from Japan. I'm trying to think of all the different countries so nobody feels like I've left them out.
It almost looks like we're looking at a photo of Habitat for Humanity, another wonderful program
Definitely.
in terms of the philanthropic work that is being done. But there are real needs in Hawaii, and you are definitely meeting those needs. Sometimes we don't see them, but I think our current homelessness situation has really raised that to a new level, and so it's exciting to know that you're doing something about that. Before you go, what do you have on the horizon? Any great project coming to the forefront, or a long-term direction? Where's Surfing the Nations going?
Well, our biggest project right now is the Community Outreach and Training Center. We don't want to start something that we haven't finished.
Sure.
And so you just saw a picture of it a second ago in the midst of construction. And we're watching the roof go on today, and it soon will be buttoned in. So our goal is to have it done by the end of this year. So that's another pinch me, is can it really be happening? And then we have an art show that we will run the 21st and 22nd of November, which is trying to bring art into a community that was anything but that. So, and the young people's art that belong to our Ulupuna program will be featured, as well as other well-known artists around the island, as from Mark Brown to many of the others that you may be familiar with. So that's a big thing for us in bringing change to the community, to bring a crowd in there. And we try to open it up and just make it. Iolani School gave us a great big tent, donated a great big tent to us. So we cover our whole parking lot, and we turn into what used to be a scary place full of lights and fun and people doing things. And it's just a statement of where we really want to see the neighborhood, where it's a hub of excitement and art.
Well, Cindy, thank you very, very much for being here and for sharing with us. And
my pleasure.
Before you go, Tom, would you just let our audience know how they can get a hold of you, your website perhaps, if they want more information?
Right. They can just go to www.surfingthenations.com, and all the information is there, all our history, everything that we do, pictures and everything.
Well, congratulations on the great work that you're doing. I'm glad you both were able to be here today. My guests today, Tom and Cindy Bauer, just great people doing great work with many, many volunteers, local and international, here in Hawaii. This is one of the good things about Hawaii, and so I hope you'll keep watching what Surfing the Nations does. This is Keli'i Akina with the Grassroots Institute. Until next time on ThinkTech Hawaii's E Hana Kako, aloha.